Greetings my friends, and welcome back to the channel. Darth Sidious was a Sith Lord unlike any other before him. Having successfully taken the galaxy by storm, he became its emperor, and he officially destroyed the Jedi Order. Palpatine was a man of great power, and as the culmination of the Bainite era and the Sith rule of two, he used that power to his advantage, and nearly became the most powerful Force user in galactic history. Very few Sith Lords can lay claim to the kind of success that Sidious brought about during his era. However, there is one Sith Lord who took the galaxy by force out of the grip of both the Jedi and Sith alike, blindsiding both the Republic and Sith Empire during the time of the new Sith Wars. The Eternal Empire seemingly came out of nowhere and carved a path of destruction right in the middle of the war. The man that led this Eternal Empire was perhaps the only individual that rivals the sheer force potential and power of Sidious, not to mention achieved power. This individual was known by many names: Tenebrae, Valkorion, Lord Vitiate. He is one of the most mysterious entities in the Old Republic era. So stick with us today, students of the Force and acolytes of the galaxy, as we give a brief summary of the life of Valkorion, and then analyze his power to see just how much of a threat he really was, as potentially the only Darksider that eclipsed the power of Lord Sidious. The story of Tenebrae actually begins in 5113 BBY, during the Golden Age of the Sith Empire, also known as the Old Sith Empire. Under the rule of Martynas on the planet of Madras, Tenebrae was a Sith pureblood and an illegitimate son born from an affair between a poor farm woman and the ruler of Madras, Lord Drothma. When Tenebrae was a very young boy and began showing signs of force sensitivity, Tenebrae's stepfather confronted the boy's mother about it, suspicious since neither of them were force sensitive. The woman admitted to her betrayal, and driven into fury, the man began to attack her. Tenebrae watched on, feeding off of the man's anger, and by doing so, stoking the flames of the dark side within him. Tenebrae then reached out and snapped the man's neck before turning on his mother and began torturing her with the force as well, continuing to feed off of the suffering until finally killing her many days later. By the age of 10, he had already amassed a huge cult following from his village after using his terrible displays of power publicly using them to torture and kill many of his subjects. Many followed him out of fear or out of fanaticism. You see, the young Tenebrae was very much unlike many children. He didn't speak or act like a normal child would. When he was born, his eyes were completely black. He was almost entirely emotionless and enjoyed feeding off of the suffering of others. He would continue doing so, carving a path of destruction through his homeworld. Eventually, his birth father, Lord Drothma, would confront his son after hearing reports of the boy. Tenebrae actually ended up severing his father's ties to the Force before torturing him too, until he went mad, and only then did Tenebrae kill him. The boy then seized the throne, and anyone who challenged him fell beneath his immense power. Eventually, the leader of the entire Sith Armada at the time, Lord Martynas, recognized Tenebrae's strength and christened him as Lord Vitiate, officially making him the new world of Madras. Vitiate renamed the world Nathema and ruled it for nearly a century. After Martynas' death, the struggle to become the next One Dark Lord was fought between Naga Sadow and the Sith Ludo Kresh. However, Vitiate decided to stay out of the struggle, wisely distancing himself and watching on as they fought each other like mad dogs, and then both groups failing when trying to go to war with the Republic. During this time, Vitiate would fight no wars. Rather, he shut himself off from the wider galaxy and would study the secrets of the dark side incessantly. When the Old Sith Empire fell after the Great Hyperspace War, many of the Sith were left scattered from across the galaxy. Now, it was go time. Assuming a leadership role, Vitiate called all remaining Sith Lords to his world of Nathema in order to aid him in performing a ritual, promising all of the Sith that it would unleash the full power of the dark side beyond anything they could possibly have imagined. However, it was all an elaborate ruse, because as soon as the 8,000 Sith who answered Vitiate's call arrived at his palace, he dominated their minds and bound their wills to his, forcing the Sith to participate in a ritual that he had discovered. The entire planet was frozen in the grip of the dark side sorcery, and upon its completion, all life on the surface of Nathema was annihilated, save for one individual, Darth Vitiate. The being that was now Darth Vitiate absorbed the life force of the entire world, stripping the force from the very fabric of reality of Nathema and gaining both unimaginable power and immortality as well. This is an insane feat of power the likes of which we have only seen from Darth Nihilus, and it only gets worse from here. Darth Vitiate changed his name and decided to simply be known as the Emperor. Though the Sith Empire was now publicly in ruin, under the Emperor's rule, he secretly pilgrimaged his entire empire into the unknown regions, and expanded his empire out to many worlds, and eventually found the lost world of Zakul, and with it, the key to his victory against the Republic, the Eternal Fleet, a fleet created in secret on the planet of Iokoth. The fleet was operated by sentient droids and controlled through the Eternal Throne. During his journeys, he became dissatisfied with the Sith ideology, so the Emperor divided his consciousness into the Zakulian warrior named Valkorion and created a vast civilization known simply as the Eternal Empire. The Emperor's goal was absolute immortality in order to experience and expand his new creation across galaxies, so he plotted to initiate a war between the Sith Empire and the Galactic Republic. His plan? To drink in the deaths caused by the conflict in order to fuel a new ritual that would allow him to consume almost anything in the galaxy and become an all-powerful Force god. He then orchestrated the Mandalorian Wars as a preliminary attack against the Republic, but this was thwarted when Revan and Malak won the war and tracked down the Sith Empire in unknown regions. Valkorion simply dominated the minds of Revan and Malak though, and twisted them to the dark side. Though as soon as the two were out of his reach, they broke free from his control, but were still under the influence as the dark side, as you well know. The rest is history between Revan and Malak, and they began the Jedi Civil War against the initial plan of their new master. After much fighting, Valkorion's plans would be pushed back another 300 years until a peace treaty was broken between the Eternal Empire and the Republic. This was due to Valkorion's sudden birth of 3 children, Arcan, Thexan, and Valen. From here on, a Cold War was waged until finally the peace treaty was officially broken. When this happened, Valkorion then revealed the Eternal Empire to the galaxy as his 2 sons, Arcan and Thexan, invaded Imperial and Republic space and captured a famous champion later known as the Outlander. Judging the Outlander alone to be a worthy adversary, Valkorion orchestrated his death at the hands of Arcan and embedded his consciousness within the Outlander's very mind. Valkorion counseled and shaped the Outlander into a vessel of supreme power as the champion defeated Arcan, and then later his daughter in Valen, and disabled the entire Eternal Fleet. Valkorion sought to take over the champion's body fully and ruled the galaxy as a heroic liberator. However, in a final clash of wills, the Outlander and Valkorion's own family banished the ancient entity into the very void of space. However, this was of course not the true end of the Emperor. Vitiate's spirit would return, but the Jedi Grandmaster Satele Shan and many others would help to destroy Vitiate once and for all, dooming him to the world of chaos. And that is the end of Vitiate's story, as we know it so far at least. An incredible Sith Lord and Lord of the Darkside in general, Lord Vitiate nearly succeeded in becoming a literal Force god after living for nearly 1500 years through the use of essence transfer. He is living proof that all Sith Lords who were attempting to find immortality and rule forever weren't just blowing hot air. His intense study of the dark side yielded him great power. The Emperor's rituals on Drome and Kos warped the planet's very atmosphere, creating the perpetual lightning storms, and he became vastly skilled in telekinesis and defensive techniques. He could conjure force barriers easily strong enough to block flamethrowers, and even stronger lightsaber blows from his son Arcan. His telekinetic prowess was so great that he can effortlessly perform great telekinetic feats without using hand gestures, which is commonly needed by force wielders. He was even able to send the extremely powerful Revan flying across his throne room with barely any effort whatsoever, and even disintegrated the droid T3M4 with just a mere thought. Vitiate's proficiency with Force Lightning definitely rivaled even the power of Darth Sidious, as he was able to conjure a Force Storm, an incredibly powerful darkside ability, if not the greatest darkside ability ever, and overwhelmed Revan. Darth Vitiate was clearly the superior to Revan, who in himself was a Force prodigy. This was a man who had truly grown beyond the Sith and achieved a power that superseded most ideas of the Force and Force wielders. Vitiate became something else entirely, Vitiate had truly achieved a level that was beyond Sidious, as he lived for far longer and dominated multiple empires. This is not to say outright that Vitiate is the clear superior to Darth Sidious, but if there is a Sith Lord that is his superior and his better, it would be Vitiate. He had the natural dark side affinity as someone as powerful as Nihilus, a very entity, and yet the cunning and mind of Palpatine. And even though he didn't become a god like he had wished to, he still definitely left his mark on a now scarred and worse galaxy. Darth Vitiate is most definitely an underrated Force user, and very often looked over when considering the most powerful Sith in history. Is he the most powerful Sith Lord that has ever lived? Well, that, my friends, I will leave up to you. Be sure to let us know your thoughts on Tenebrae's history, Vitiate's history, and the history of the Eternal Empire and Valkorion. As always, my friends, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.